I will call this meeting of the Blue Lake City. I'll call this meeting of the Blue Lake City Council to order. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. in the Skinner Store Community Center. Happy autumn, everyone. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we establish a quorum of the council, please? Mayor Drum. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Scholl. Present. Councilmember Pufani. Here. Councilmember Becker. Thank you. We're on item 3, approval of the agenda. I'm going to ask first the council members if there's anyone that would like to move anything around on the agenda. Not seeing any need, then I'll open to the public. Anyone in the public would like to move anything around? Come back to council for a vote to approve the agenda. Oh, yes, Alex.
For the council.
Okay, this is not public participation at this point. This is approval of the agenda.
Public comment?
Not yet, not yet, not yet, Alex. Yeah, yeah. We're just at approval of agenda. Next item. Okay, council members who would like to make a motion?
Make a motion to use the agenda as seen.
I would second. Motion made by Christopher Edgar, seconded by Elise Scafani to approve the agenda as delivered. Any further comment from council? Public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. We are now on public comment. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the City Council that is relevant to the scope of authority of the City of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The council may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the council may uniformly impose time limitations of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the council takes up each specific agenda item. Is there anyone here for public comment? Alex Ricka, and then Kat in the back, and we have someone on Zoom as well. Will be third. Julie Kristen.
Thank you. I apologize for my haste.
Okay.
Stage fright. I have submitted a application for the seat on the Public Safety Commission, and I just wanted to come before the council so the council members had a face to put with a name when I come before you for a vote. So that's all it was. So thank you.
Thank you for applying. And next, yes.
Hi, thanks for being here. Can you hear me okay? All right, we had a COVID exposure at home, so I'm just trying to haven't tested positive, but just out of caution. So thank you. Wanted to follow up on my comments from the last meeting, my public comment regarding damage on private property along the truck route. City manager very quickly facilitated a meeting with myself, the city, and an SHN representative to walk the site together. And I want to make sure that some of you know that it was obvious some of that damage was in areas that you expected it was going to be demoed, and that was exactly the case. So if anybody understood that I was trying to say that things were damaged from end to end recklessly, that's simply not the case. I did see that there could have been more duty of care exerted as far as containing spatter of concrete. And ultimately, after meeting again with SHN, I've also met with the owner of ROA, the contractor there. And I feel like we successfully came to the concept of yes, we're going to take greater precautions in the future, try to minimize any concrete spatter on there. And let's see, what else do we have? I still stand by my assertion that duty of care is an important concept whenever we're working with any contractors. So please don't feel singled out for this particular contractor. I don't know them other than the work that I've seen and in dealing with them, and it's been positive on both ends. That said, due to care is just simply the concept that we can't willfully damage somebody's property and at the tail end say, well, we'll fix it. You have to take appropriate steps. And that's all that I was trying to do in that meeting. So it was off the cuff, as some of this is. Um, did do a few written comments, trying to keep it on point. And overall, I feel like the crew's continuing to provide us with a very good product at the end. Lastly, I want to say oddly, I felt like there was some uh, political projection onto this, and I was really surprised because really this is just simply about um, damage on private property. Hey, let's look out, let's make a change. There was nothing in here to say that the crew was involved or people got special treatment or this was bad to go with these guys. None of that applied. I'm pretty much, I call it like I see it. That's how I saw it. I feel like positive action has been enacted. I'm satisfied. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Kat Napier. I'm running for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie?
Hey guys, I have to wear my headphones at the barn so I can hear you, and I know it always makes a weird echo in the room. I want
We
to
can't hear you
congratulate,
that well either.
yeah, I would like, can you hear me now better? Um, I'd like to thank Alex for stepping up, for our Public Safety Commission. That's really cool. I would also like to thank Kat for stepping up for our council and giving her thoughts on the truck route progression and I'm hoping during our mayor's report we can get a good thing on the climate action plan. HCOG received theirs earlier this week, and it's something that I've left public comment on at supervisors and at the Adorney Center gathering that they had. I really hope that our commissioners can take the time to look through our climate action plan and our public as well. We have so much comment time to do that. It's imperative that we stick realistic to keeping this county rolling economically, and we need to be realistic with our goals. We are eligible for sequestrian like things that we are not really a detriment to our carbon imprint given all the forestry and productive ag land we have. We should actually be considered exempt from a lot of these regulations. Steve Madrone and John Ford have commented on that as well. But I think it's really important that we support our county in a way that we are staying focused on the fact that we are not a carbon deficit and we are a rural county and we need to stay productive for everybody in the future. Um, Please just let's get knowledgeable on the climate action plan. Mayor, you can do a great job for us explaining it more here in a minute, and I'd appreciate it so much. I won't take any more time. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment this evening? Lynn Glenn and then Marty.
Yes, my name is Lynn Glenn, and I am with the Blue Lake CERT team. I'm formerly the team leader, and now I'm doing public education. And you have before you a packet of materials because September is National Preparedness Month. So I wanted to mention 4 quick things. Talk about the Blue Lake Safety Fair, the one of the city's roles for communication during an emergency, the shakeout drill, which is coming up, and then the fact that we have a new edition of Living on Shaky Ground. So the preparedness fair, I mean, the safety fair was fabulous. We were so impressed. We were able to reach so many Blue Lakers. We had great turnout in terms of agencies and people coming to see what was going on. The Community Resource Center did a really great job of free food, and I think they did the Touch a Truck, which was such a genius thing to do. It was just really a good event. So we really appreciated being able to be part of that. I noticed we distribute Be Prepared for Emergencies in Blue Lake. You may have seen this around. It's been out for about 3 years. And the CERT team put it together with the Public Safety Commission when the public PG&E was doing those long power outages. And there were a lot of issues that happened with everybody. People need power. Uh, so we put this together to tell them what their local resources are. And I noticed we mentioned in a couple of places you'll see highlighted that the city would have information out on a bulletin board because we can't assume that we're going to have electricity. We can't assume that people have the ability to get onto social media. So it's really important to be able to communicate and let people know there's going to be information for you if you go to the city hall, go to the bulletin board. But I'd kind of forgotten about that, so I just thought I might remind you about that. And then the shakeout is coming October 17th, and that's it happens every year. It's a drill for a big earthquake. It's an opportunity to practice whatever you want to practice, your family plan, drop, cover, hold on. You might want to check your home to make sure that things are anchored so they won't fall over you on you in an emergency. So that's coming up next month. And then the new edition of Living on Shaky Ground is out, and this is put out by the local manual basically on emergency preparedness. It tells you about earthquakes, tsunamis, how they work here in our county and on the North Coast, and how you can put your emergency supplies together, what you should do to prepare your home, prepare your finances. So it's a really excellent resource. It's free. We've been out before, but we have a brand new updated one. So I don't know. Do you have them at City Hall? I was going to come by today and I forgot to check. Do you have the new shaky grounds? Because I can bring them by. Okay. Sure. Yeah, they're pretty new. So, but anyway, I think Blue Lake is well prepared as a result of the Public Safety Commission and everyone's efforts. And I, I think thinking ahead is really important with the bulletin board. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Marty.
Marty Granger. Last month, I submitted a written request to Anna Lee concerning an item that I wanted to get on the agenda, and it's not on the agenda, so I'd like to repeat the request verbally. It's short now. All right, this is what I wrote. This is a request for council to consider hiring Justin Goad for his services of recording commission and council meetings so that the community can stay informed and involved in city matters more easily, not to mention having a record of these meetings. This would include the 4 commission meetings a month, 2 hours each equals 8 hours, and 1 council meeting, 4 hours for a total of 12 hours a month at $25 an hour equals $300. And sometimes a commission meeting is canceled and sometimes a special meeting is added. Sometimes meetings are shorter, sometimes longer, but a flat $300 a month seems reasonable, and especially since all his equipment is free to the city. I'm sure Justin would really appreciate being compensated for his expertise. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Okay. Mandy, I noticed we did discuss having the item about Justin on our to be put in your manager's report because there has been some movement in that area, hasn't there? And I didn't see it in the manager's report.
Yeah, and I apologize for leaving that out. Yeah, so we actually have been working with Justin, and we do have an arrangement to be able to compensate him for his services. So yeah, so he's been really great to work with, and has been helping train staff so that we're all kind of cross-trained on the equipment. And I think we've got a good relationship and a good uh, monetary compensation that's reflective of Justin's needs, and that I feel is very fair.
Yeah. I remember we had talked about it at our agenda meeting.
Yeah, I apologize for not
and
getting
it
back
was
to
going to be put in the and I just double checked to make sure that I didn't miss it, but I don't see it there. So that has been worked out. So thank you for that. If there's no other public comment, we'll move on then to item 5, proclamation of the City of Blue Lake recognizing September 30th to October 6th, 2024 as the week without driving. The state of California has proclaimed the week of September 30th, 2024 to October 6, 2024 as the week without driving. This proclamation is made with the intention of raising awareness to issues surrounding public transportation and environmental impacts, while at the same time encouraging citizens to utilize alternative forms of transportation such as biking, walking, and ride sharing. This proclamation is being adopted throughout the state as an educational campaign that invites local officials, decision makers, and community members to experience their community without relying on a car, and encourages consideration of improved public transportation and access options such as trails and pedestrian walkways. And we have a draft proclamation. I got this from um, Right. I got this from the Humboldt County Association of Governments. It's something that we adopted at our last meeting. And so I brought the template for the city of Blue Lake, and staff came out with a proclamation for us. So I'm lucky if I get at least one day without driving. I try to ride my bike around as much as I can. But anyway, it's something to really think about. And then, of course, there are people that need public transportation as their means of moving from place to place. Is the pleasure of the council to pass the proclamation and then I'll read it, or would you like me to read it first and then we'll pass it? The pleasure.
Whatever you'd like to do is fine.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion then to accept the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake to recognize September 30th, October 6th, 20 to October 6th, 2024 as the week without driving.
Motion as read.
Second.
Motion made by Christopher Edgar, seconded by Angela Shull to accept the proclamation of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake recognizing September 30th to October 6th, 2024 as the week without driving. Any further discussion from council? Any input from public? Jean Lynch. And Julie's hand is up. Okay, thank you.
Well, I forgot my copy. Anyway, there's a notice in there about freeways and not freeways, but roadways going through persons of colors neighborhoods. I think that could be deleted or excluded from the proclamation. I don't think that's necessary. I think there's been a lot of work done through the years to try to formalize to make traveling easy within the state of California. I don't think that it was intentional. In fact, my grandfather was the head surveyor for the city of Los Angeles, and I do find the wording of this as intentionally vague. It doesn't give examples of any notations of the travel through communities of color. I'd like that stricken from the proclamation in honor of my grandfather, a very honorable man, very intelligent man, who would be deeply offended that anyone would think that he was trying to um, run over somebody of color. Totally offended. Thank you.
Julie on Zoom.
Yes, thank you for reading in the proclamation. I know it's kind of a state county-wide proclamation that's going around, and I do understand Jean's concern with verbiage. However, I think maybe what's misunderstood is that when they are putting that verbiage into this proclamation, it's for the reasoning, I guess, that roadways were developed in a way to not be as accessible to minority groups, and that's outdated. I do agree on that. There was verbiage that the supervisors, when they did their proclamation, Mike Wilson brought it forward, for our Constitution, there was also verbiage within that that could not be perceived well or understood well, and in that reasoning, causes conflict of discernment. And I would like to say thank you, Marty, for bringing up Justin. The public has been paying this entire time. I wish council and staff would have mentioned that we've been paying for the recordings through our pocket and donations, because we do appreciate him as well. So I'm going to slip that in. All right, bye.
Okay, that was off topic, but thank you for your comments. We had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we're making a motion.
So much for further discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I thought Jean maybe had a point with what she said, that singles out communities of color. I don't know if that part of the statement's necessary. I didn't study the original you took this from, or if this is exactly the original.
It's pretty much the original, isn't it?
It is, and I think it is actually a very important point. When I worked for the Yurok tribe, this was a huge issue for us, having a major highway come right through historical villages and not having representation when those types of actions took place, and being able to see the ongoing and long-term effects of having transportation routes going through areas that traditionally were underrepresented at the table when these types of actions were taking place. So I personally think that it's very relevant. This is something that's happened across the nation, and I think it's wholly appropriate to recognize that these communities have been underrepresented and have been impacted by these types of infrastructure developments.
Sorry, I was not being rude on my phone because there was my apologies. I was at a conference back in February, and this is what triggered it. There was actually something that came up about the Adams Street interchange project in Riverside, and this is exactly what happened with the folks in Riverside. The African American community in Riverside was folks literally lost their homes because of the interstate that went through their homes, and the interstate could have literally gone someplace else with a little extra funding from the state, but because the cheaper route was to go through this area of um, this African American community, they had no voices, and so those folks were completely displaced because it was the cheapest route. And so another example of minority communities being displaced simply because of lack of awareness, lack of understanding, lack of equality, lack of and I understand I'm not displacing anything, Jean, that you're saying, and I'm not making any any comment towards any of your family members, but there have been multiple examples of communities without a voice completely being displaced simply because they don't have a voice. So I would agree that recognizing that history is an important component of this proclamation.
Is there any further discussion from council? Okay, all those in favor of adopting this proclamation as written, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Proclamation of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake recognizing September 30th to October 6th as the Week Without Driving. Whereas access mobility is a functional part of health and community connection, allowing Humboldt County residents to reach education and employment opportunities, medical services, shopping, recreation, and to visit friends and family. And whereas everyday Americans who can't drive, approximately a third of the population, that includes people with disabilities, young people, seniors, and people who can't afford cars or gas, face significant barriers to mobility, such as inadequate sidewalks, lack of access to transit, lack of connectivity, and dangerous roads. And whereas the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates the cost of owning a car is approximately 72 cents a mile, with average households spending on transportation reaching $10,961 a year in 2021, many people cannot afford the cost of a car and nearly a third of the people residing in the U.S. do not have a driver's license, either because of their age or a condition that does not allow them to drive. And whereas transportation represents the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, and in order to meet our state's greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, we must reduce emissions in our transportation sector. And whereas, in addition to greenhouse gas emissions, cars also create the dust that can enter watersheds, have necessitated freeway expansions that have been detrimental to neighborhoods that are historically home to communities of color and require impervious surfaces for parking, with an estimated 3.4 parking spaces for every car in the United States, all of which have contributed to transportation being an important environmental justice concern. And whereas the Week Without Driving is an educational campaign that invites elected officials and other decision makers and community members to experience their community without relying on a car, and whereas going a week without driving is a great way to understand how we can improve our current transportation system to better meet the needs of the citizens in our region and improve and enhance transportation options such as transit, biking, and walking pathways as key strategies in our decarbonization efforts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Blue Lake hereby proclaims September 30th to October 6, 2024 as the Week Without Driving, and encourage all people in our region to join in this special observance. And I will be signing that. Okay. We will now move on to item 6. City of Blue Lake branding implementation discussion and direction. The city has been in a years-long process of developing marketing and branding materials to elevate the city's capacity to market community events, improve signage, create social media platforms, and replace outdated materials. The Blue Lake Economic Development Commission was tasked with this process, and over the years, the commission has worked to make progress on this initiative. As part of this process, the city hired Visual Concepts to develop a branding campaign for the city. This included the development of a city logo that could be deployed across social media platforms, applied to signage and print materials, and utilized as a base for further branding and marketing. Visual Concepts has provided the attached materials, and the city has begun the process of integrating the branding campaign. These materials have been presented to the Blue Lake Chamber of Commerce, the city's Economic Development Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Arts and Heritage Commission. And we have examples of the branding logo that is now being proposed for our city. So we can open up the discussion. And as I understand it, Mandy, did we have kind of a contest for people to bring their ideas, and no one came forward with any ideas on this logo
We
for our
did, and
town?
I think this is kind of a it's kind of a hard project because, and we talked about this, I think, a little bit at the last meeting. Marketing and branding is a specialty field in and of itself. It's an art form. There's a lot that goes behind creating a brand and a marketing campaign. And it doesn't necessarily lend itself to kind of an art contest. And so, but we did put it out to the community to see if anyone was interested, had any concepts or ideas. And we didn't receive any input, and I don't think that that's um I don't think that that was you know I'm not surprised by that. I guess because I think what we were really looking for isn't necessarily like an art contest type of product. And I think, we could have pulled elements maybe from submissions to help Noah at Visual Concepts maybe kind of come up with some ideas. But ultimately, yes. So we did put it out for it was out for quite a while. Um, and we didn't receive anything. So we ultimately moved to that next step, which was hiring a professional to help us with this, because this is, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when you're looking at a branding system. And the city's really been trying to kind of take that next step and kind of elevate ourselves so that we are creating a recognizable image and brand out on the market. And as we're starting to build more capacity to have recreation events and things, we really want to have something that people start to recognize across platforms. One of the big issues for us as well is moving into more of a social media platform and how these types of systems integrate into social media applications. And that's not something that anyone in the city has any expertise in. I mean, we can make, pretty decent flyers and stuff. We use Canva, and, we've kind of elevated our systems that way. But as far as creating a system for marketing and strategies and implementation, it was just really outside of our area of expertise. Visual Concepts is a very well-known local uh, brand marketing production team. Noah is a local. He's I would consider him kind of a Blue Laker. He, grew up in Fieldbrook, but he played baseball, little league out here in Blue Lake. He's very connected. He mountain bikes out here probably 4 days a week. He's been very involved in our skating rink. His kids come out here every Friday night to go skating. So he's got a really good feel for the community. He's very much a part of the community. And so he really worked really well with us as we kind of presented to him, where we saw our needs and where we would like to go, especially with our recreation program. Some of the things that we talked about was, creating a logo for the city. The city doesn't have a logo. We've had various iterations of logos and things. We have a tree that
We've
sometimes
always had this little
we have this little
tree,
tree.
and that's really been
Yeah, we
mostly
have a
what we've had.
seal. We have a seal for the city, but that's a very, I would say, generic government centric type of imagery. We use that when we have to seal a document or attest to a document. So it doesn't really lend itself to a marketing application. So that was something that we were looking for. Um, I think Noah did a really great job. So I put together on your first page, you have notes from Noah. This is just about how he came up with the concept, the reasons why. We really wanted something that reflected kind of our history. We talked a lot about being a timber town, being a train town, and moving into, we've always been a recreation town. So but just grasping a little bit more towards recreation these days versus kind of that industrial context, but not losing sight of who we are and where we've come from. So I think he did a really nice job in pulling different fonts and creating a layout that I think has kind of a traditional but modern, clean application. He also created a whole color scheme. You'll see that in here. Um, and those colors are kind of reflective of kind of the natural environment. The nice thing about these colors is you can, use these colors in different um, I guess densities, I don't know, or saturations. I guess maybe in colors you talk about saturations. So you can lighten them up, darken them up as necessary. But those colors were picked for a specific reason. Um, and we also wanted something that could really translate across activities, and so having a consistent image but that could also be utilized in a way to market specific activities. So for example, what he did with the Blue Lake Bike Park, this was something that he's been working with Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association to help us raise money to build the Blue Lake Bike Park. And so this is a great example of how you can take kind of that core imagery and apply it to kind of a specific type of activity or event and start to have an expanded marketing opportunity. So he created this imagery of a kid riding a bike, but in the background it's still this this logo. And so we talked a lot about being able to do that and apply that across mediums. So thinking about the skating rink, how that looks, biking, the horse arena. And like I said, I think I kind of went through this at the last meeting. So if I'm being redundant, you can um, let me know.
What I like about it is the flexibility of it. You know, you can see how many ways it can be adjusted to what we're doing. You know, for Annie and Mary Day, you could have train tracks going around it. Our motto is, sunshine, sea air. You could even have that around it at times. If it's a bike event, you could have, bicycle chains going around it. I mean, it's the flexibility is what I like about it. And that was mentioned at the Arts and Heritage Commission when they reviewed it.
Mhm.
And Roger, I believe, is the name of the
Ran-
head of the
Randy.
Randy, I'm sorry. Randy is the head of, or he's the chair now of the Arts and Heritage Commission. And I guess he has somewhat of a background
Mhm.
in this kind of visual art. And he was also very impressed and made a few comments similar to that with the flexibility of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of cities are taking this on. Eureka was probably the last one. You know, they did a full rebrand for the city of Eureka. And now we're starting to see that their logo has changed, their color schemes have changed. But, you know, what I now notice when I see that orange color, you know, on something, I immediately connect it to Eureka. I'm like, oh, that's a City of Eureka event, or that's a City of Eureka vehicle, or so you know that's what branding and marketing really does is it connects people to place and to activities. And so we want to be able to start connecting all of our materials in kind of a cohesive branded way so people when they see this they immediately think of Blue Lake. And I think you know creating clean lines, just kind of cleaning up, you know, like I said, we didn't have a logo. Um, when I came on board, there were multiple things people were using. Parks and Recreation was using something, City Hall was using something, you know,
The
Public Works has
Chamber of
something
Commerce
else.
was
You know,
using
everyone had
something.
just kind of created their own stuff because there wasn't really anything that had been really implemented. So we did even with the agenda, you know, we started implementing it. I did kind of change up little bits of like the agenda report just to reflect the new typography and having the logo in there. So just seeing where it can be implemented. The proclamation, you'll notice it has the header, Blue Lake established 1910, Humboldt County. So these are just ways with the two different logos because I thought it was appropriate to have the bike park logo with our new logo. So you can see how you can integrate this into different materials. So if you have any questions, you know, I know, you know, change is hard. Um, but I think for the city moving forward, you know, we're becoming a much more known quantity. And I think in order to compete and in order to have, you know, to keep ourselves at the forefront, you know, we need to have nice materials and, you know, kind of a cohesive application of it.
It'll be something that'll be on our website as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's good
website,
too,
social
because
media, all of
people
it.
will look at the website, they'll see our logo, then as they come into town, they see it. So there's
Mhm.
all that
Yeah.
connectivity with the branding.
Is the
Um,
swag gonna be available?
Yeah, and that's the next question
the
everyone's
swag,
been
yeah, I
asking.
want a hat really bad.
We had a lot of response when NOAA first kind of launched this out to the community. We got hit immediately with people wanting to know um, when you know the new sweatshirts are coming out and when you know new hats, and so that's kind of the next step because that's a good resource for Parks and Rec.
We need some trinkets. Trinkets for people to buy.
Yeah. And Noah's got some good ideas on, you know, merchandise. There's Emily's been really great at trying to find new ways to you know, have items out. I think it's like print on demand is kind of the new thing. Um, oh, um, So you can have kind of like an Etsy store with all of your stuff, but it's a print on demand. So whether it's stickers or hats or shirts,
Okay,
sweatshirts, all of
we
it,
need
towels,
stock. It
we don't
just
have to stock. Yeah. So we're
Mm.
starting to make some of those connections to be able to look at quality. We also have the capacity with Parks and Recreation to print our own materials on sweatshirts and t-shirts. We have a heat press now. You know, if with council's direction, this was asked to be put on by Councilmember Scafani to, I think, you know, have a conversation and um, have a more of a direction to staff how you want us to apply this. But we are prepared to start having, you know, these images printed so that we can start, you know, selling sweatshirts and things. And we'll be coming into the holidays, and that's a really good season for us to be able to get sweatshirts and stuff. A lot of people love to buy Blue Lake stuff to send to family, for gifts and stuff. So we would like to start getting kind of in that process.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council?
I have a few thoughts about it. I really like the emblem with the bike on it. I think that um I think that looks great. I have some concerns about this other image because even after I studied it on the computer and I can see what it is, as I'm driving through the roundabout, I look and I don't recognize the image as what it is. And so I would love to see um, any other renditions of this design that Noah might be able to show us that has variations. I imagine he went through a number of variations before arriving at this color palette and this saturation with each of these images. And I just wonder if there might be some of those renditions that are better for certain applications, um, that would still be recognizable and still have a lot of the same um, themes running through. So where we, you know, like maybe the black and white version is best for a small thing like the agenda, or maybe there's a different version that has um, some but not all of the elements in it for small printing and this sort of thing. So I know that Emily and according to Noah's Facebook post, Emily and Mandy worked with him on choosing all these designs and colors and whatnot. And so I think that's great. And I'd just like to have an opportunity to see any variations that might exist um, that folks, might decide they like for whatever applications. Um, Again, it's like we're rebranding Blue Lake, and I think the folks in Blue Lake should have an opportunity to weigh in and uh, and share their preferences
So you,
before we start printing
so you didn't,
everything.
what was it about this you didn't recognize? You didn't recognize the
I think
bridge
it's too
or?
busy.
Oh,
I think it's too busy. I think that when you drive past the sign at the roundabout, it looks like a lot of color, but it's not in that size, in that situation. I feel like it's not recognizable as I mean, yeah, we'll get used to the idea that this is a Blue Lake logo, and we've seen it on the computer, um, but I think it's too busy.
So one thing I think, just to keep in context, is the sign at the roundabout is just a very temporary sign. We
Okay.
are working with the Chamber of Commerce to look at, you know, a new sign in the future that would not be this type of application. This is just more of a directional sign that we've had up because we want to make sure people understand that to come into the city of Blue Lake is the next turn. In the past, we had a lot of people going thinking they were coming into Blue Lake, but they were actually going into the casino. And so there was a lot of confusion. So we needed some type of directional sign. And the chamber's been working on ideas to update their sign. We're working to kind of coordinate that effort. And that'll be kind of a fall, winter type of discussion that will in the future will lead into a much nicer gateway signage for Blake. So this is really a temporary application. I think the other thing with the signage is, you know, coming through that roundabout, we don't necessarily want, it's not necessarily there for people to try and figure out what's going on. It's a very, I mean, you're sweeping through, trying to pay attention to multiple entry points of vehicles. So it's not really our goal necessarily for people to really lock in on that image for any amount of time, because I think that would be distracting. It's really just more reading the text that downtown Blue Lake's ahead. So it's not, like I said, it's not the end all sign. It was more of a temporary fix. It's just a vinyl banner that's trimmed out with some trim boards, but it helps to just kind of get us through until we can take that next larger step.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say at our, just give my Chamber of Commerce report now, but that was really what we did talk about at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, was the sign being bold in that it says, "Hey, you're in Blue Lake. However, the downtown area, don't make a right.
Hmm.
Keep going and make the next right." And so really the point of the sign was for those colors to kind of draw you in, that yes, you are entering Blue Lake, but all the fun downtown stuff, keep going. And then, so when we were looking at it from that perspective, it wasn't to really like dissect, like you said, the components. It was really just to draw your attention to these colors, and the fact that the colors drew your attention in, and the font drew your attention in. Keep going and make a right at Greenwood.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that we talked about. And then actually, we spent a great deal of time talking about whether the arrows actually did the job that they were supposed to do. And we spent, a few minutes actually discussing whether the arrows should be different. But
Mhm.
in terms of, did that sign actually say, boom, yes, you are in Blue Lake? And did the color scheme and the font do its job? Yes. And then we spent some time on the arrows.
Sure.
Yeah. And that was just the Chamber of Commerce perspective
Mhm.
for certain.
Yeah, I would anticipate in the future, the gateway signage will look very different. And there will be a lot more thought put into how any type of imagery is reflected at that point. I think, that's also a big part of branding and marketing. Signage is also a huge, um, kind of art form in itself as well, when you're looking at, points of view, when you're looking at how much time do people have to read a sign, what gets their attention, making sure it's not distracting, font size, like there's a lot that will go into that as well, that will be a much larger process. And I would assume most of our commissions would also be involved with that discussion, along with the Chamber of Commerce as well. The commissions do a lot of work, um, and they help staff out tremendously. When we take items to our commissions, that's really where things are pulled apart and analyzed and looked into and talked about. It's an easier process, and it's an easier setting than this. This is a very, a much more formal process. And really, by the time we get to the city council, your expectation of staff is that we're presenting you with the best information that we can for you to make the most informed decision. It doesn't lend itself to that format of, dissecting things, and that really, a lot of that happens more at the commission level. And the commissions do a lot of work. They really do. They take a lot of time. EDC has worked on the branding and marketing for literally years. It's taken us to get to this point, because we're just finally ready to kind of take that next step into this, to update our signage, because we feel now that we really have something that we can market, and that we can, try and attract more people to. We didn't really have our footing before, when we're looking at different events and things. But we're really starting to get to the point where we have concrete things that we feel are ready to take that next step in marketing. So I give a lot of credit to what our commissions do. And I think that's really the place where a lot of the hard work gets done.
Yes, I noticed that too, since I've been attending them as an alternate to Elizabeth McKay. I've noticed how seriously they've taken these issues. The Arts and Heritage Commission had a good discussion about it. Then at the Economic Development
Mhm.
Commission, I also noticed that there's a new Powers Creek district sign that looks really nice. Again, I understand that it's temporary and it does have the logo there. The Chamber of Commerce has our flags on our poles, which are starting to look a little faded. And so there's opportunity there maybe for the chamber to look at some ideas for new flags on the
Yeah,
poles and that kind of
absolutely.
thing. So yeah, it's very interesting.
So I
going
really
on.
appreciate the e-commerce aspect of um having our stuff there, but we are a huge recreation,
Hmm.
and most of these things are bought in towns, cities, municipalities on a whim and off
Yep,
the shelf. Is
absolutely.
there anything that is going to have us going with local businesses or having an availability like that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really exciting is starting to kind of co-market with some of our businesses. And just getting our products out there where they are accessible. So thinking about, could we print up, 10 sweatshirts? They'd have to be kind of maybe a higher end quality and see if, if Blue Heron would like to have those for sale, in her shop. We've been selling items that the guys and ladies down at Paradise K make all their Bigfoot stuff. We've been kind of co-marketing those and selling their products through Parks and Rec, and they've, bought a lot of stuff from us in return as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get our stuff out there. We sell a lot of stuff just through a Facebook post, hey, we've got these sweatshirts available, and here's the new design. Like our Bigfoot designs, we've sold so many, shirts and sweatshirts just with our like, fish mad or go big. It's a Bigfoot with a fishing rod, I mean, we've sold so many of those. So, um, part of our problem too, is always just we're a pretty small staff, and even our recreation team is like a team of two. We have a lot of part-time, kids working for us and stuff, but trying to get, kind of a higher end novelty shop going. That kind of started kind of towards the end of last year. Right before summer hit, where we started, you know, we really went kind of full scale into kind of the novelty stuff with the stuffed animals and the things for kids, and that's been really successful. So we'll be able to get more of our merchandise in there as well. Um, so yeah, I think we've got a lot of big plans and big ideas, and but we've got to kind of sequence ourselves. I think the biggest thing we need to do though is recognize that we have something that people want, and we need to make sure it's professional and it looks good and it reflects the city, and that's what we're trying to do with the work that Noah's been helping us with. And he's been really good at also looking at ways. When we did this, we kind of thought of these as they call them badges, where each recreation activity has kind of like the bike park, it's like
yeah.
a badge, and from that badge you can branch off your marketing and your the kind of offerings that you have, the kind of swag that you have. So that's something that we've been talking with him a lot about, taking kind of that next step for skating, fishing, biking, horses, arts and culture. All of those things can be pulled into this, but we really do want to, a lot of what we sold in the past, like those that go big, the Bigfoot stuff, I created that on my cricket program. We started out, Emily and I literally, we each owned our own cricket machine, and we were literally cutting out transfers at like 10 o'clock at night over here on our little cricket machine and pressing them with her cricket heat press, and because we just wanted to see if it would work. And
And it did.
we sold them so fast, and we
Good
couldn't keep.
Times in
Yeah,
Blue Lake,
yeah,
the
all of
Mad
that
River
came
is
from
my
our
happy
stuff.
place. I have all those different shirts. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're very popular.
And so we found that we really did have something that people wanted. So we now need to take the next step because we can't keep doing it on our cricket machines. Um,
I think you should focus on Christmas because that is when people really buy
Absolutely.
things.
And right
And
now is when we need to start,
the little
getting things
trinkets
ready.
too, like coffee
Hmm.
cups, shot
Hmm.
glasses, keychains,
Water bottles,
water bottles.
stickers.
Yes,
Hmm.
patches. Like I
Yeah.
heard the patch thing. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, the glue on or sew on
Can
patches.
we maybe come back to the design and the process?
Oh, I already like it, so that's what I
I
was
know, I
talking
get
about.
it. I get it. Yeah, and I can totally appreciate that, the all the commissions have seen this design. I watched most of the Economic Development Commission meetings, and I know that they were presented with the design after it was finished and the colors were already chosen. I didn't see a meeting where they got to choose colors or they had different designs to pick from and were able to show their preferences. So I think commissions should certainly be involved in development, and I think the public should have an opportunity to be involved in development. And so I'm still just going to stick with my initial ask that we have a little more time to look at colors. I'd love to see this in a lighter, with all the same greens, blues, blacks, and yellows. I'd like to see it a little lighter. I think this looks good on a black shirt. I think Blue Lake's a light, bright place, but I feel like this design is pretty dark. There's a lot of black, and it's pretty dark, and I'd love to see it in some brighter colors that are more that maybe reflect more of a feeling of a warm day. This looks to me like a fall sunset, like we're going into winter, and I'd love to see it in a lighter, brighter um, color scheme. And I just like to see some choices and options so that we can, you know, be sure that the one that we choose is the one that the most people appreciate and want to be branded with, want to call the Blue Lake brand.
So I would just, I guess my question would be how do you make that determination on who, how many people that is, who, when there's a lot of opportunity, to participate in the process, especially at the commission levels. And if if you're not getting that participation, does that does that mean that, I guess
Well,
it's a hard thing for me to
I
say, to
understand
send
what
this
you're
out to
saying.
people. Like,
I
how do we do
understand.
that?
I understand what you're saying. You're like, it's like you have all these meetings, people don't show up,
Yeah.
they're not participating in this
Right.
process. But I think that a lot of times people don't understand what's being decided at the meetings, and if we present it as, hey, we're gonna, you know, this whole rebranding thing you guys saw, you saw this on Facebook, and we want to solidify our choice of colors and design, and we love for the community to weigh in on this. And maybe we do it a little bit differently. I don't know, maybe it's not at a commission meeting or a council meeting. Maybe, you know, so we tried to have an art contest to design the sign and we didn't get submissions, but I think that if we show people, a bunch of choices and we ask them to vote, I think
And
we're
how do
going
you
to get
do that?
people to weigh in.
I guess that's my question.
We
I mean,
I think the
yeah,
how
yeah.
isn't easy. I mean, I think we can work that out.
Well,
We
it was
just have
done
to
at
be willing to
the
do it.
commission level.
and that's
No,
what
it
I'm
wasn't.
get.
I think that's the commission's job to do that.
We already gave.
The
We're
commission
what
didn't
you're
even pick the
suggesting is that we're
colors.
taking away what we gave the commission.
No, I'm
We
not.
gave. Yes, you are. We gave the commission the job of choosing a sign
Three
for us.
commissions.
Yeah,
Three
They
multiple.
didn't
commissions
choose
looked
it.
at.
They were shown the finished
They
design. They
chose. They
didn't choose
send.
anything.
They send it to us.
They chose
They
it.
chose that and sent it
They
to
could have
us.
offered.
They
Bullshit.
agreed to it and
They
sent
did
it to
not.
us.
They did not. They were not given a choice. They were shown this design. They were said, these are the colors. This is why we picked the colors.
And they
Some of them,
agreed to it
Instead of talking it out.
and sent it to us. We wouldn't have it otherwise.
Yeah.
That's true. This is just a discussion item. I am going to open it up to the public if there's anyone that would like to weigh in on this. I see a hand up at Zoom. I'll do Julie first, then Marty, Alex, and Winona, and John. Okay, Julie, you're first.
I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm gonna do my best. Um, I am with Elise on this situation, and I don't know why she is getting so much rebuttal back. This is going on too long, this rebuttal. She's stating valid facts. I've been a participant along this timeline, and I concur with her statements, and you all should as well if you have been along on the timeline. Yes, there was given public participation with very, very specific requirements to even give anything back to the city. Look back at that. It made it almost impossible and it was short time. From there was no further discussion to let Mandy and Emily run off to this designer and do what they have done, which is fine. She's the manager. She does what she can. However, I think a discussion prior to that to even decide if we are not wanting our old seal, I really think it's cool. It shows not only does it represent us for the county, this is how we've been represented for quite a while. Even at HCOG, we are still represented with that seal. Even at the splash pad today, which was a beautiful welcome sign, we were represented with that seal. I love it. I think it shows good humbleness, it shows heritage, and I don't know why we want to keep rebranding everything. We're losing our heritage. We're losing the name of our river because we just decide that that's what's going to happen because of a select group. And we're losing our heritage. I don't mind that the expenses were spent. They weren't in the budget. We know that we spent 5,000 on that video, but we don't know what we spent on the imaging. It was never discussed or it was never given approval, which is fine. The signs coming into town in Powers Creek, they're there. But as far as our seal that we're giving out to the rest of the county, I think it is a very non-busy one that keeps to our heritage. And we are not doing justice to our image to do a facelift. We don't need a facelift. We have earned our reputation and we should be proud of it. And I think if we want to have extra excess stuff that has some imaging, great, fine. But what represents us as a seal of our city within our county, I think has earned its right to remain. And please, council, if we can do anything, remain our seal for our letterheads and remain our seal for our county reputation. Thank you.
I think it was Marty next.
Marty Granger. I couldn't really understand what she was saying, so I may be repeating. But it seems like when this was offered originally for the people of Blue Lake to participate in, it is kind of overwhelming. I mean, like, we don't know what, I mean, it's just kind of an overwhelming job. Like you said, a professional comes up with some ideas, and then, okay, the commissioners take a look at them, and I just wish there were three or four things to choose from. I mean, the commissioners now, the council people should have a choice what they think. And you could even get five or six different patterns and put them out and have the public know that they're at the resource center and come and invite the public to come in and see which one you like the best. And that way, people that really want to be involved could do so.
Alex and Alex, I'm sorry, we have to have everything microphoned now. Thank you.
I think Blue Lake needs a Find the Lake Day. I think it'll be a marking device that would work very well, stand the test of time. You could have people come out and look around Blue Lake trying to find the lake. So, thank you.
We know where the lake is. It's on private property. Thank you. Um, Winona, I think John, were you? Okay.
Oh, sorry, John. So I was going to agree with Julie. I think that the traditional seal is actually very timeless. It's professional looking. Something that was brought up at the economic development meeting was that the new design is very in right now, and it's like a fad. And that is exactly what it is. It's a fad. It's not timeless. And I think it's appropriate for Parks and Rec maybe, but in 10 years or even 5, it will make a lot of sense to be changing that design to have new merchandise. And I think it'd be appropriate to have this logo be representative of our Parks and Rec, which is evolving and changing. But I also think it would be appropriate to keep our seal for our city council and our professional documents. Sorry, let's see what else I have on here. Themes are not bad. I think that Parks and Rec would benefit from that change because again, it changes up the merchandise and opportunities for things. And I would say about the commissions, if this all comes down to council, then it is essentially a waste of our commission's time. There should be a better communication between the two because this has been brought up to the commissions and here it is being discussed at council and we're at like a standstill again. So there needs to be a better communication or understanding between the two because it isn't really fair to the commissioners to be putting so much time into these subjects and then it coming here and it's like it's never been discussed. Thank you.
John?
Thanks for the opportunity. So I just feel the image like I don't know, I couldn't figure out what bugged me about it, and I determined it was like the high contrast colors, um, the color combinations as well. It was bold and oversimplified, and the design's sharp lines kind of um, were aggressive in a way. Um, it was also visually overstimulating, and there was like too much going on in the imagery with the line work as well. And some things that we could do to fix these are we could adjust the color scheme by softening the colors or choosing a more harmonious palette. We could reduce the complexity of the designs as well by removing some of the outlines. We could also enhance the focus by highlighting uh, the, the central figures as well. Um, and potentially changing the framework of the bottle cap design. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And again, this is flexible. We can change the outlining area of it, and there's a lot of flexibility within it. Color can be changed. We have a black and white version. We could have a lighter version. We could have less bold lines. There's a lot of flexibility in it. But good discussion, I think, and I think the direction, at least I think from what I'm hearing, is that we need to move forward as far as getting some swag going on this by Christmas time when we can make some money.
And could the direction be that we could see some different iterations of the design with some different colors and let the community weigh in on this? I think the community is sharing with us that they're interested.
The commission has looked. The commissions have looked at them. Yeah, the commissions have looked at this. So
I think if the
lots of
commissions were given
opportunity.
choices,
They were.
I didn't see that in the video.
As Winona stated, and I completely agree with what she said, what you're doing is demeaning what we gave to the commissions to bring back to us. They did their job and they brought something back to us, and now our decision is to direct council on what to do with this. Oh, they didn't. Okay, so they showed,
Say
but
that's not true.
Yeah, I was at those meetings and
And we
okay.
did actually discuss it, and there were changes that were asked to be made, and those changes were made. But I don't think, you know,
yeah. Like there
and
was
I
at
think
one
that,
point there was something about it looking like a frog or something, and then that was
yeah,
tweaked
and
even, and
hmm
there was a lot of good input from the
and I think what
commissioners.
our commissions also recognized was, like I said, this is an art form. This is not, when you're this isn't something that um, is within staff's ability or areas of expertise. It's not in the area of expertise necessarily of the commissions. Their job was to, work with staff to go through this process and, come up and, take what Noah presented. Did they like it? Did they not like it? Could changes be made? And then send a final product on to council. And I guess for staff, it gets a little bit frustrating because, we have a lot of commissions, and we have very, very little participation. And I think it's easy to make a comment, at a council meeting, coming up to the podium is, it's great that people are paying attention at that point. But by the time something gets to the council, there's been so much work that's been done behind the scenes. And so it does feel a little bit like, jumping in at the end and wanting to start the process over. And when there's so much opportunity for people to engage, I think all of our commissioners, are very open. Our commission meetings, there's a lot of dialogue that takes place, and a lot of information gets traded back and forth. It's like I said, it's a more flexible format than this. So by the time it gets here to try and kick it back, you really are kind of negating all the work that those commissions do. And it is a little bit difficult to say, what do the people want? That's, we're a city. You can't do everything by consensus. That's what you guys are elected to do, is to represent the city and represent, the community. There's, 1,100 people that are residents of Blue Lake that aren't in this room right now. And they might be not in this room right now because they're completely fine with what was presented in this agenda packet. So it's very difficult to find this medium of, well, we need to let the public decide. We need to have more public input. That happens at the commission levels. That's really where that work comes in. And people are always welcome, to come in. We get comments all the time. People come in, they send comments, and that's great. But by the time it gets here, a lot of the work, the hard, heavy lifting has been done. So I guess that's, just a source of, I guess, frustration on my part that, and I think for the commissioners as well, is to um, think that that process hasn't taken place, and to think about starting that over when they have put in the time. So to my input.
I see there's two more hands. I think, Julie, I think we've already heard from you. So I'm going to go to Becky. Becky, are you there?
Muted.
I don't know. Okay. Well, I think we've discussed this enough. I don't see that we can access her.
Oh, she left.
Oh, she left. Okay.
Hello, hello,
She's right there.
hello.
She is.
She's back.
I have
Hi,
been
Becky.
trying. Hi, I'm sorry. I've been trying for 10 minutes trying to figure out how to raise my hand and speak on this phone. So,
Okay.
my comment was is I needed to get in there to be able to say I agree completely with Elise. 35 years ago, I took graphic design, and over the years, I've implemented that and used it. The colors are too dark. I just have to agree with her. Listening to all of it, I feel that you need to tone it down. You need to find more neutral colors. It's just very too busy. There's too much. There's no white space. There's no grouping. I mean, you got it all bunched together, and it needs to be a little spaced out or look a little different. Um, Also, I just wanted to say one thing about merchandise in this town. In 2006, we started a T-shirt shop, and I did the Lager Bar's first T-shirts, Blackberry Bramble's first T-shirts, and many other companies around Humboldt County. And it's not an easy gig, and I understand Mandy and Emily have worked really hard to make Blue Lake shirts, but we did produce and make the very first I Swam Blue Lake shirts. So, that being said, just remember there's other graphic designers out here, and the public really needs to see what is being presented and let them have the choice. Don't give it out to them too. Let them be involved. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, back to council.
I would just like to
Basic
say
direction.
just the one thing that I was the editor of a magazine for a time, and I worked with graphic designers, and I worked with a lot of different folks to put that magazine together. And I never once on a piece of artwork had somebody say, "Here it is. That's your color scheme. That's your design. We're done." I always had somebody show me what they had. They'd start with one or two iterations. We'd say, "Hey, I like this. I'd like you to lighten this. I'd like you to darken that. I'd like you to remove this or add something in here." It was always a process where we had an interaction and we had options and choices, and we never had just one thing. It would be, several choices.
And
Always,
that
always,
happened
always.
at the commission level.
I saw one in that video. I saw one choice.
No, there were a lot of changes that were made. Like I mentioned, somebody noticed that it looked like a frog or something. So there
Yeah,
was a
and
lot
I
of
guess,
changes that were
but the
made.
colors didn't change. He changed I understand he changed the symmetry of the mountain so it didn't look like eyeballs. Um,
Yeah, that
but
was what it was.
yeah, but we didn't,
Yeah.
anyway.
It can
Uncle,
be like
I'm
that.
done. Thanks.
Um, all right, we're going to move on to item 7, which is our memorandum of understanding with Philbrook Glendale Community Service District. The Philbrook Glendale Community Services District.
I'm recusing myself.
Oh, okay. Let the record show that Christopher Edgar is recusing himself from item 7. The Memorandum of Understanding. The Philbrook Glendale Community Services District, known as CSD, has proposed a service agreement with the City of Blue Lake for services relating to the daily monitoring of their wastewater metering system. The CSD had previously contracted for these services, but due to a recent retirement, the CSD no longer has a qualified operator to perform these duties. The city's public works director and superintendent have reviewed the scope of work provided by the CSD and feel that the duties are manageable and within the capacity of the city's staffing capabilities. The city is proposing a monthly rate for services. This rate is based upon an assumption of providing 1/2 hour per day of services to the CSD and includes the cost of vehicle mileage and administration costs. The city's attorney has provided a draft memorandum of agreement and it's recommending execution as presented. And we have that memorandum of agreement um, with us. So would staff like to add anything to the presentation?
No, but I would, on the recommended action, I would like to have council consider authorizing myself and the city attorney to make any minor changes to the agreement in the event that the scope of work or the amount of time or anything does change. We did a calculation based upon 30 minutes of time per day, 30 days a month basically, and then an overhead administrative cost of 15%. But in the event that Fieldbrook wants to propose something a little different, we'd like to be able to entertain a counter offer. I think this will be fine from what we've heard, but if there's any little change in the pricing, I'd like to be able to have the authority to make that change.
So the recommended action was to authorize the city manager to execute the memorandum of agreement with the Philbrook Glendale Community Service Agreement and to amend the agreement as appropriate upon review and recommendation by the city attorney. So you want different,
No,
different
I
language?
just,
Because that sounds like what you're saying.
yeah,
That
so
that
that's the
second
recommended
part.
action. Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that second part, the amendment would
right.
be something that you could work out with the CSD if necessary.
Right. And so if this way, if we sign a 1-year agreement, it comes around next year rather than it having to come back to council, we can amend it to add additional time and make any adjustments to the cost structure is what I'd be asking for in this motion.
And would we have to do a budget amendment about with this issue because there is going to be a little bit of a
Yeah,
change?
we'll have to look at how that money would come into the fund. And so we'll have Scott look at that to make sure that that the revenues come in appropriately.
Is Fieldbrook looking for a long-term solution, or are we the long-term
I
solution?
think they kind of think of us as a long-term solution, and honestly, I think it makes sense. Licensed operators are extremely hard to come by, and they're extremely expensive. And so, for a small CSD who really has, just this one basic meter that needs to be read, it's really not cost effective for them to continue down that path. They have been contracting, so this is kind of, it's a great job for an operator who wants to get, just make a little extra money on the side. But it is pretty burdensome. You have to do this meter read every single day. And so you can't, so for us, we have someone on doing rounds every single day. So we split that between our two operators. So it allows it allows, people to go on vacation and, to be sick and have a backup plan. And it's really difficult for a small CSD to be able to, to make that happen. So I think this is a good partnership. We work really well with Fieldbrook. Um, our systems are very close to each other, and and we are somewhat connected through the rest of the system. So we feel this is a good arrangement.
Do they have a board?
They do. Yeah,
Okay.
they do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a community services district, so they
Okay.
do have a board.
Okay.
And Rick Hanger is their board chairman.
Yeah.
And you might remember Rick from working at ENO for years. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
HCOE,
So
Yeah.
ECS,
Yeah.
all the places.
So
is this read
He
always
catered my
going to be
wedding.
just once a day?
Yes, it's a 1 day a read, and then we enter the data into. They basically provide us with a tablet. We enter the data in, and then we also do just kind of a quick system check to make sure that we are not seeing any anomalies in the read. And if we do see something like a spike or anything that looks out of place, then we just have a call protocol. So we don't assume any type of operation. We don't troubleshoot anything. We basically read and report. And they have a list of contractors that are on kind of a call log. So we call Rick is our first point of contact, and then we can go through their call system to make sure that things are looked into.
So we're not physically going out to all these meters and
We're going to
reading.
one. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
just
And it's
the
just
main
past,
one.
just past Glendale, kind of at the Fieldbrook, just past the
Yeah,
trailer
Fieldbrook
park.
Road.
Yeah.
Glendale trailer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. I know where
Yeah.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And this MOU doesn't have this MOU that I'm looking at doesn't necessarily have an end date.
Right.
Or will we propose an
We'll
end date?
propose one. Yeah.
Okay. Like
Yep.
a year end
Mhm.
date, and then
Yeah.
we just renew it every
Yeah.
year.
And then normally what we do is we just do an amendment, and
Okay.
that amendment can make changes to the body of the agreement, or it can just amend the end date. But that's our opportunity usually to, if there's something that's not working or we want to add something. But like I said, normally those, are just these kind of low level type agreements usually just run through myself and through the attorney rather than coming back to the council each time. So that's why we we're just asking for that clarification.
I think it might be a good idea for it to come back to the council next year, and then, we'll have a whole year worth of information to consider. And if it worked out well, then to go on and not need to look at it following year. But it seems like since this is the first time we're doing it this way, we might want to check back in a year from now.
Well, there is a clause in item 8 that says the agreement shall remain in effect until such time that either party shall, by provision of at least 30 days prior notice, notify in writing the other party to this agreement that said party desires to cancel and terminate this agreement.
Right. So I'm just saying, I think that it'd be a good idea for the council to be consulted a year from now. And we just kind of review how things have gone over the previous 12 months and decide if we want to continue, rather than have it be completely open-ended and we don't hear about it ever again.
So would you recommend that there's be something added to this agreement then that states that?
No.
No, because the agreement's going to be for a
Mandy
year
said
anyway.
the recommended
Oh, I see.
was to give her the ability to make any and all amendments. And she mentioned that it would likely be reviewed a year from now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'm just saying that I think after a year of providing the service, we should have a quick chat about how well it's working and if we want to continue.
So that could be in the motion, perhaps,
Okay.
if you wanted to add something to that effect.
Alrighty. I would like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the memorandum of agreement with the Fieldbrook Glendale Community Services agreement.
It should be district.
It should say district.
Oh,
Wait, we have to do public comment. Or never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I'll do that.
Sorry.
And we have-
I apologize.
So it's Philbrook, Glendale.
Community Services District.
Oh, district
sorry.
needs to be put in there. Okay.
Okay. And amend the agreement as appropriate for the coming year. But with the understanding that a year from now it'll be reviewed for future service.
So I think what you're saying is you want to just authorize myself to execute the agreement for 1 year
Okay, so these
because
amendments
you're
that you're
taking away
talking about,
the
these amendments you're talking about here would
you're
not be
you're
for
doing away with those.
this current year. You can go forward with it as written for a year.
I would ask for you to keep the ability for us to amend the agreement to reflect any type of cost structure negotiations, but it sounds to me like you want to remove my capacity to amend this for further years without. So basically, I think you're just asking, allowing me to have a 1 year contract
Right.
with the ability to amend the cost structure.
Okay.
I mean, I
Um,
think that's what you're saying.
within the year, the change will be made, or you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we'd like to come up if we need to amend the language in this just because of the cost, because we haven't had a chance to really sit down with Rick and make
Right.
sure all this looks good.
Right.
You should be able to do that within the
Yes,
year.
I'd
I
like
think
to.
So,
Yeah.
so, so make a motion to approve the recommended action as written for
1 year.
for 1 year.
Oh, that
Is
was
that
There we go.
is that what you're saying?
yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that
I'll second.
you second? Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion made by Angela Shell, seconded by Scafani. I'm going to now open it up before the vote to public. If there is any public comment, this is the time on this agenda item. Julie?
Thank you for taking discussion time on this item, and I hope
Of
that
course.
whatever we can do to make Zoom audio better in the house, I appreciate it. I do my best with my technology. Thank you, Elise, for bringing that forward. And I do hear Mandy's comments as well with not knowing the projections at this moment. However, those projections are important. We were received a grant or in process of a grant that was supposed to be facilitating smart water meters throughout our town, and the reasoning for that was to cut out staff time, because to get the grant, we needed to show a way that we're helping our users receive better usage
Okay,
rates with the
I don't
improvements.
believe that's on topic, Julie.
I understand, but it is. Now listen, you can cut off everybody else. I'm not going to do it right now. It is because the reasoning to get that grant was to cut off staff time because of the general fundage for our public works. Now we're asking McKinleyville or Philbrook to allow us to be in their district and to service them. We do need cost analysis, and I think that's important to have that in a yearly fashion. We can hand off the reins. That's fine. I understand that management's supposed to do their job. However, this is a new endeavor, and I do appreciate Chris recusing himself. He should have listened to the agenda item and recused him for the proper reason for exiting. And he did not exit at the last discussion of this item. And that's just protocol. I don't hold any grudges against anybody, but when you guys are sitting in those seats, let's just do the best we can. And you should all be transparent on these situations. So knowing these details on what it's going to cost us for staff time and everything is important to judge the situation. So we will hand it off for now, like we do, but a review later. I agree with the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, Chris. Thank you, John. Bring Christopher back in. And we are going to proceed to item 8, which is council correspondence. We did receive correspondence from Jean Levitt to Amanda Mager. Please share this memo for the council meeting agenda tonight. Thanks, Jean.
It's not Jean Lynch.
Oh, maybe it isn't.
It's Jean. I think it's Jean Lynch.
Yeah, that's what I said. Didn't I say Jean Lynch?
Did I?
You did. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry, Jean Levitt. Okay, Jean Lynch. I'm sorry. Um, Jean Lynch. It said Jean L, so I don't know where I came up with. In a city management form of government, also known as the council manager system, the process for deciding on purchases for services typically involves several key steps and players. One, city council. The elected city council is responsible for setting policies and approving the budget. They outline the priorities and allocate funds for various services and projects. Two, city manager. The city manager, appointed by the city council, acts as the chief executive officer. They are responsible for implementing the council's policies and managing the day-to-day operations of the city. This includes overseeing the procurement process. Three, procurement process. The city manager, along with the city's procurement or purchasing department, handles the actual process of purchasing services. This involves identifying needs. Departments within the city government identify their needs for service. Requests for proposals or RFPs. The city issues RFPs or bids to solicit proposals from vendors. Evaluation. Proposals are evaluated based on criteria such as cost, quality, and vendor qualifications. Selection. The city manager or designated officials select the vendor that best meets the city's needs. Approval. Mayor contracts or purchases often require final approval from major contracts or purchases often require final approval from the city council. Four, transparency and accountability. The process is designed to be transparent and accountable with public meetings and records to ensure that decisions are made in the best interests of the community. And the last page, this system aims to combine the political leadership of elected officials with the managerial expertise of a professional city manager, ensuring efficient and effective delivery of services. Uh, is there any other council correspondent? No? Okay, thank you. We will move on to the consent agenda and
I'd like to pull this disbursements, please.
okay. And I mentioned in the minutes that I would like Angela Shull to be recognized as the mayor pro tem in the future. And I think that was all I had, so it's minor. Um, so we can approve 9A and then we'll separate that out from 9B and Christopher Egger will recuse himself again. Okay.
As long as we're making some corrections, there's
Oh,
on the minutes on page 3, it says Councilmember Scafani states she is open to working with Gary with updating the city website general plan page. And I invited Gary to work with me to update it. I let him know that we created a page specifically for the general plan, and then I let him know that I'd like his input on populating that page. So that kind of
minor change there.
little tiny change, but
Yeah.
it just seemed funny when I read it. I thought it felt weird. So
Yeah, I read it too, and I wasn't sure.
You get to vote on the minutes.
oh,
Yeah, you get
Don't
to.
leave yet.
Yeah. All right. So there's been some minor adjustments to the minutes, but nothing major.
and
So
there's one more thing that
oh,
sorry
okay.
on page
No problem.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4, line number 5 on the top of page 4. It says City Manager Mager. We did not receive those funds. We were able to use amendment to bring the project's cost. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
We did not receive those funds that we were able to use. I don't know. We
I'm
did
not sure what
receive
that's
those
supposed to mean. It just
funds.
seems like a weird sentence. Yeah. And
I think it was talking about the additional funds we were originally going to ask for from CDBG, and we didn't receive those funds, and we were able to use our existing budget to make the repairs, I think is what it was all
So
referring
we
to.
did not receive CDBG funds.
We didn't receive the additional funds.
The
We were
additional
going to,
Additional.
Which is in line with the conversation.
Yeah.
we were
Okay.
able to, I would say we did not receive those funds, semicolon, we were able to use the existing budget. To bring the project. I'm not sure about the amendment to bring.
Amendments to bring the project's costs. Yeah, there's something wrong with that too.
Yeah, I think you could strike that.
Amendments. You want to
Strike
scratch that? Okay.
Yeah, I think that would encompass,
Yeah,
we were able to
okay.
use the existing budget.
Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve them with those corrections and additions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Christopher Egger, seconded by Angela Shaw to approve the meeting minutes of July 23rd, 2024 with those corrections and additions. Any further discussion from council? Anything from public?
Julie's got her hand up.
Julie?
Yes, I'm sorry. I feel like you guys are trying to rush through the meeting. I'm rushing through keeping everybody quiet in my barn so I can talk. Thank you, Elise, for bringing up and pulling budget. I have some questions there and I hope that we can have public comment then. If not, I'll just slip it in now to save time. There's a $5,000 expense.
We're not talking about the budget right now.
Yes,
We're talking about the
I'll get
minutes.
back. I will happily get back to the minutes.
Yeah, we're on the minutes.
There's,
Thanks.
yes, ma'ams. There's several commentaries within public comment that you just list public as saying they need public comment, that they need comment. I don't know if you guys want to volunteer to help with your minutes during the meetings. Justin's videos are amazing. I've spent many years in secretary work. Like, I'll happily volunteer, but if we can't get these minutes accurate, we don't have an accurate timeline unless people are reviewing the videos, which it sounds like council is not. And so anywho, our minutes are not accurate. They're not accurate to the verbiage of a lot of the recordings. And I feel like it's very scripted and that has been an ongoing situation for the last 3-4 years. And it's very concerning as a participant trying to just keep everything square. So thank you.
Any further public comment? Yeah, you do. This is concerning the minutes from July 23rd.
It's kind of related. Can I try? Let's just
If
give it a
it's
try.
about the minutes,
Can you
yes.
guys go ahead and try and scan the text? Yeah, when you guys create the PDFs, they're not like scannable, so you can't like highlight find text within the minutes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's been a motion made by Christopher Egger, second by Angela Shaw to approve the July 23rd, 2024 minutes with those corrections and additions. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. Okay, now you can take a walk, Christopher. All right, we are now on the August warrants and disbursements, and let the minutes note that Christopher Edgar has recused himself.
So check number 12219, City of Blue Lake, water and sewer payments for $3,540.81. I'm curious why the City of Blue Lake is writing itself a check.
The city of Blue Lake also has to pay for water and sewer for all of our facilities. So we have to pay for all the water and wastewater associated with our park facilities, City Hall, Skinner Store.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then I had a question for check number 12233 for Nutter Productions. I'm curious, what is Nutter Productions?
Nutter Productions, that is Lynette Nutter. So she was contracted to do our video using our REAP funding. That was a requirement for the funding related to affordable housing.
Okay.
And that was the video that we viewed at Humboldt County Association of Governments
Yeah.
meeting. And
Yeah.
I'm going to make a report on that, but that is a great video. We really need to get that out there. Maybe it's only I think it only took 10 minutes or
Yeah,
something,
10,
but
15.
we should
Little
view
under.
it. It's a really good video.
Yeah, we were thinking that maybe we would bring it back maybe next month for council to be able to view it. And then we do need to get it on our website and get that also out. That's part of the REAP funding requirements is really to analyze what your barriers to housing are in your community. And they allocated a special subset of funding to be able to do a lot of communities have done videos, which are actually really nice because they're also opportunities to highlight, positive aspects of your community as well as delving into, what those barriers are. And I think Lynette did a really good job, of bringing that all together. So we would like to present that and get that out into kind of more of the mainstream, you know,
Yeah, we'll put that on for future agenda items. I was thinking that would be a good thing.
And that REAP funding, was that part of another grant, or that's just REAP funding that we get every year that we?
No, it's part of, um, we've received REAP and LEAP funding. The LEAP funding that we've been able to use to update our housing element, and update some aspects of our zoning code. And then the REAP is a regional allocation, that came down through HCOG that we were able to apply for. And then there was another subset of that that was kind of a smaller carve out, to be able to do these types of projects for each city. So the city of Blue Lake actually was able to, take an allocation from some of the other cities who weren't able to finish their project. So we actually got a little bit more. And so we were able to take those funds and apply it to this project. So we actually got, probably, we probably went a lot further with our dollars than most, which was really nice. I think, and like I said, it provides a lot of value, but it was also something that was mandated through the funding source through the state.
And we use it exclusively for the video, or there was other
There,
projects?
there was
You said the
multiple projects that have been used. So the REAP and
housing.
LEAP funding has been used mostly to, update our housing element, and
Okay.
that's what those monies were for.
Thank you. And so I saw a payment here for REDEC. That looks like
What
that.
check number is
Oh,
that?
sorry. 12271, which looks like a mortgage payment.
It is. So this will be something that Scott's bringing back. So
Oh.
previously we had brought back to you an action to, pay that loan off for the town square. And unfortunately, when the payoff amount was presented, it was misrepresented on the number of payments that were left. So we paid down against the balance, but we still have a small balance. And so, we'll be bringing that back. We still have CDBG funds that could be used, to pay this all the way down, but the, final payoff amount was not, accurately reflected when we brought that to council.
Do you have a ballpark of what's
I
left?
think we owe like another like $11,000 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the calculation that we received from REDEC was not translated correctly. So it might have been like an interest, payments were not placed into the final amount. And so I'm not sure, but Scott's looking into seeing why the numbers, that we brought to you for the payoff was not accurate.
Our REDEC meeting was canceled yesterday, so I can't give you an
Oh,
answer.
because Greg's in Norway or
Greg's in
something.
Norway. Yes.
Oh.
That's all the questions I had.
Did you have any questions?
Would you remind me again about the last payment for Finestone, the security deposit?
Oh yeah.
I
So
can't remember. I know it's in the back of my brain, but I
yeah,
can't
so
remember.
this is for her low impact development project.
you.
So yeah, so her basically her stormwater, project.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to pay the warrants and disbursements.
I would move to accept the warrants and disbursements.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa Scafani, seconded by Angela Shull to accept the August warrants and disbursements. Any discussion from council? Any input from public? Julie?
Thank you guys for taking my comment. I hate to be that lady in the room all the time, but I do feel like reviewing our disbursements, it is very unclear on general fundage, grant, just stuff like that. Like when we're getting back to the disbursement of our redact and that was allocated through HCOG. And if anybody wants to see that video, since the city hasn't shared it yet, if you go to the HCOG webpage, you can actually access it there. They're promoting it already because the funds that were used were from that. However, within our disbursements, we should maybe just have a little notary of, these funds came out of this, like maybe just have a little quotation or asterisk to like grant or something, when stuff's hitting our general fund and then getting dispersed out, I can only assume it's our general fund when the disbursements are listed out like they are. They're not very explicit. As far as that grant goes for HCOG and that came out to like $500 an hour. And so anyways, keep that in mind as we are spending stuff and not discussing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the warrants and disbursements? There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes. All right, let's get Christopher. Okay, Christopher. Okay, Christopher. Come on in. Okay. All right, Christopher and the rest of the council, we are now on item 10, reports of council and staff. Hate to jump in right on you, but um, did you go to any meetings?
No, I've been out of town, busy. I don't even know if there was any recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Um,
Parks
Elise.
and Rec meeting was canceled this last month. I have a RCEA meeting this Thursday, so I've already reported for last month. And just ongoing work with Andy on the website, little bits of troubleshooting and this and that. And he's currently working on migrating the website to a new dedicated server that'll increase performance. And he has a list of projects that he's going to be working on as time allows with our flex time. That's all.
Okay. As usual, I went to a lot of meetings. Please bear with me. Monday, September 9th, 2024, I attended the Blue Lake Arts and Heritage Commission meeting. They discussed the town square art panels. Those are the panels that are going to be around the um, portable potty that's there. And so the commission looked at various art pieces from Patricia Senate to decide what would look best on the three sides of that structure. So they had a good discussion there. They talked about art-based traffic calming installations along Greenwood, um, the crosswalks and what will happen there, possibly getting the school involved. The fire hydrant art project, which we all, I'm sure, know about, is out, and there was discussion and update on that. The ad hoc committee meeting on murals and sculptures, not sure that they actually met, so that was all from that meeting. September 10th, the next day, Tuesday, I attended the Blue Lake Economic Development Commission meeting, and they discussed the retail cannabis ordinance idea. They're still looking at various models from other cities. They talked about the fact that Eureka just passed a vacant commercial property assessment and ordinance, and the possibility of us doing something like that was discussed. They looked again at the Blue Lake branding and signage project, which we looked at this evening. They talked about business outreach and possibly working with the chamber on that. The other city projects they talked about was the town square construction project and the Powers Creek District projects happening there. And there was a Chamber of Commerce report from Justin, our Chamber of Commerce president, and the city manager gave a Parks and Recreation event schedule update, including the fact there will be a medieval festival October 5th and 6th. That was that meeting. HWMA, Humboldt Waste Management Authority met on September 12th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. and I have the agenda here. We're applying for a 70,000 education and outreach grant. To talk about household hazardous waste, the household hazardous waste program.
And it was really a very short meeting, as I recall. Then I attended on Friday, September 13th, I attended the general membership of the League of California Cities, and it was hosted by the city of Eureka. Well, this is an empty one. But they had a very nice folder here. There was some chocolate here, which I ate from Dick Taylor Chocolates. They had a magnet, a couple other little things, a postcard. And then after we had our general meeting, which is mainly an update of all the different bills that are coming up and uh, ideas of which ones we should oppose as a city. And um, I didn't think there was any that we needed to bring up here. Afterwards, we met at the Sequoia Park and Zoo and went up into the Redwood Walk, which I have done before during the day, but I've never done it in the evening. And they had the lights on, and it was especially exciting and scary and wonderful. And then after that, we had a lovely dinner at 511, I think is the name of the restaurant. Yeah, in Eureka. Okay, so that was that. That was a good meeting. Um, I think that might be all. The only other thing I wanted to, of course, remind everyone about is oh, no, I have an HCOG meeting. Okay, so then let's see, Tuesday, last Thursday, I had an HCOG meeting, Humboldt County Association of Governments. As discussed, we saw a wonderful video of Blue Lake, and we really need to see that. It almost brought tears to my eyes. It was so sweet with the town and people being interviewed. Andrew Jones, which everyone thought was related to me, but I've known the kid since he was in kindergarten, but he's no relation. Um, we also had we had the Week Without Driving proclamation, which we did here. We had a regional climate action plan comment letter. We're going to possibly bring that to the regional climate committee. We got several consultants passed, a consultant for an on-call planning service, a consultant for Humboldt County Regional Zero Emission Fleet Transition and Infrastructure Plan, and the Humboldt Transit Authority fiscal year 24-25 local transportation fund claim was passed. The last chance grade. Oh, this was interesting. We had a very, very good presentation from Caltrans about the tunnel that's occurring up at the last chance grade. And it showed it's going to be 1.1 miles. They haven't done a tunnel in the state of California since 2013. So they showed a cross section of what it's going to look like, where it's going to go, how it's going to go inland a bit. Um, it was really exciting. And then, of course, the Blue Lake housing video, which I mentioned to you earlier. And that is all, except then, okay, the last thing is this Thursday night, everyone knows there will be a Blue Lake City Council forum, um, candidate forum, conducted by the League of Women Voters and hosted by the Blue Lake Ladies of the Lake, also known as the Lola, 7 to 8:30. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
All right. So as mentioned, REDEC was canceled as the executive director, Greg Foster, is taking his octogenarian, 80-year-old. Is that right? Sure. His 80-year-old mother, he is chaperoning his 80-year-old mother on a very well-deserved cruise. So I will not report on anything there. However, Chamber of Commerce, back early September, we had a really, really great, I listened to a really great meeting where, Justin really kind of grounded. Let me backtrack. So the chamber is, for the most part, very, very, very brand new. New president, new secretary, everyone on the board is brand new. And so it was a really great opportunity, I feel like, for Justin to kind of set some ground rules and to really focus the chamber on their goals and what the next steps are. And so the opening, the opening of the meeting was really to ask the chamber, the chamber members, you know, two questions. What does a chamber of commerce do, and how do we achieve those goals? And so that really lent itself to some really strong conversations about you know, what those two answers are, and then what does that look like specifically for the city of Blue Lake. You know, we're a little bit unique, you know, compared to the McKinleyville Chamber, the Arcata Chamber, Eureka Chamber, and so on. um, and so from there, um, then it was agreed upon that um, each chamber member um, would be assigned a brick and mortar business each month to create a relationship with, and to try and generate that idea of, hi, we're the chamber and we're here to support you, and we are here to, you know, help support your business. Please join us, please join your fellow businesses, and really start to develop that sense of community among the brick and mortar businesses. um, and so that was a really nice setting to a whole new group of folks who are really working to support Blue Lake businesses, particularly, you know, as you know, in the upcoming months and years, we're looking to bring in more businesses. So as those current brick and mortar businesses can develop that sense of community and that sense of mutual understanding on what it takes to thrive here in Blue Lake, then as those new businesses come in, you know, they can welcome those new businesses into the fold, and be, you know, be that welcoming entity. So it was a really um, kind of uplifting meeting, in my opinion, just to kind of sit there and listen to this idea of, you know, how are we going to support new businesses coming in and ensure that they feel welcome, not just welcome, but how do we ensure that they're going to thrive, right? As businesses share what works for them, and pass that information on. um, Something also that I was really thrilled about, um, I need to pay you, by the way. Modernizing payment options for folks to be to pay to be chamber members. Prior, it had been just simply a check or PayPal, neither of which I have access to. So, how do you modernize by getting, you know, Square Reader, QR codes, that kind of thing? And so, so modernizing those processes and getting those processes out to folks so that they can understand how to um, either sign up or renew their dues. And then we already talked about the new sign, really looking at just, again, the bolt, just, you know, making sure that folks knew not to turn at the Rancheria, but to turn at Greenwood. And that's all I have. You're up, Mandy.
I want to make one other additional report, and that was today from 2 to 4:30. We had a splash day at the town square, and I would say it was extremely well received. There must have been about 40 children there, and adults, and free ice cream and popsicles. And it was, of course, the hottest day in Blue Lake. It seemed like 85 to 90 degrees out there, and everyone was really happy, and it was a very positive experience.
We served over 200 servings of ice cream.
Oh my
So
God.
Perfect weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Our next item is the city manager report, which we have here.
Mandy's going to give.
But Nanny's going to give it.
yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys have any specific questions about any of the items. Just a couple of highlights. Obviously, we have a lot of construction still going on in town. Greenwood is really progressing well. We're kind of getting down towards the end on the sidewalks, so that's pretty exciting. We've scheduled the new paving to start in October. We're I think we have a I think we have a pre-con meeting with Mercer Fraser this week, to talk about timing and sequencing. We do have some raised crosswalks and things that are going to go in, and so we're trying to minimize impacts, but also recognize that there's going to be some impacts, as the contractor goes to form up those cross lane installations. Um, but the end result is going to be really nice, and um, I think they're doing a really good job for the amount of work that's being done. And we haven't really had any problems. We have a weekly meeting and we talk about any impacts, any complaints, any upcoming foreseeable issues. So we work with the different trucking companies to let them know. We work with the school the fire district and the neighbors, just to kind of let people know if there's going to be any impacts. And so far, things have been going really well. The drop off and pickup at the school seems to be going fine. I've driven through numerous times during both drop off and pickup and haven't really seen, any issues. I mean, of course, there's impacts, but everyone seems to be handling those pretty well. So that's good. Um, we're almost at the end of the town square. We have the trellis structure that we're still working on. That's going to be installed by the Old Crows. North Fork Lumber has donated the lumber, and we're working with George Schmidtbauer Jr. on the final milling of that trellis structure. And he's actually kind of moved it up to a group that he's working with to do some specialty milling to make it more of kind of not a prototype, but more of a feature than just your typical trellis. So that's exciting. So that's moving forward, and the Old Crows are coordinating with George and his crew on that project. The bike park is just grown by leaps and bounds. I went out last night to check it out, and I'm in complete shock at the progress that they've made and just how amazing the bike park is. It is really going to be, if it's not the best bike park in the northern region, I'll be surprised. It's going to end up being a huge draw to the community, and the crew that's been working on it is just fantastic. So we're still working on fundraising. We basically have been trying to pay as much as we can through our fundraising dollars to support the installation. We've been paying for fuel and equipment rentals, and the crew has basically been donating their labor, which is like I said, I just honestly can't believe how far along it is and the scale and scope of what it's turning into. So we are still working on all of that.
Can I ask a quick question
Sure.
about the paving?
Yes.
I noticed when I was checking out some of the new sidewalk that there aren't any storm drain inlets in the apron that comes off the sidewalk. Are there going to be inlets in the asphalt?
They're
Like DIs?
yeah,
Yeah, there's DIs
they
all
are.
down
They're
through.
hidden.
They're actually inset,
They're inset and they're underneath, and they go through the bump
the
outs.
LID
Yeah,
features.
but it looks like that's a channel that just goes from one side of the bump out to the other, but it doesn't drop down.
It just
into
goes to. We
storm
didn't
drain.
install any new
There's not any
drainage.
new DIs, but they're connected to the existing. And then LID features are also stormwater detention basins. So those actually capture stormwater so that it can perk through. But we do have, and we are putting a new we're replacing a stormwater drain across just between City Hall and the fire department. That when we opened up the system, we found that it had actually collapsed. So there's a new inlet going there. But the existing storm system was basically adequate, but we have made improvements to the infrastructure. So all of the stormwater is accounted for.
I just saw a whole block that had no inlets. And the one by the church, I mean, like that whole block had zero inlets. And so I just wondered if there were going to be inlets created because that's like a low intersection there that I guess floods. I was told by one of the neighbors, and there aren't any inlets there.
Well, the flooding from that intersection that you're talking about is actually comes off of A Street and isn't an issue with Greenwood. It's an issue with A Street that floods over into the adjacent property, but not onto Greenwood. But yeah, all of the storm water system has been engineered and adequately assessed, and infrastructure has been improved. So there are a lot of channel systems, and like Chris had said, those bump outs are also LID features as well, so they will accumulate stormwater.
Okay, thanks.
The thing on page 5, you kind of left me there in the middle of the page there where it says city staff is in contact with the owners of Calgon. And then at the end it says, as well as opportunities for, you left me hanging there.
Oh,
That's what I was talking
oh, I see. Okay,
today.
sure.
I'm not sure. As well as opportunities for
development. I don't know. Maybe there's just one word.
Yeah, I think we're just, we've been talking with Calgon staff quite a bit about, them divesting of that property. It's become an ongoing nuisance as well for Calgon. They're expending a lot of resources just trying to keep it cleaned up. And it was broken into again not too long ago. So I believe we've had some really good conversations. One of the biggest impediments to moving that property is doing a phase two environmental. And that has been something that's really hung up the process. And I think we had some really good conversations with Calgon about moving forward with that phase two. And so I'm hoping to hear back from John Schmidt, who's the representative, that they're going to take that next step. Because with a phase two, you can actually then work on a property transfer. Without a phase two, you're taking on a lot of unknown liability, and it's very difficult for anyone to enter into an agreement for that. So that's some good positive forward movement on that. Yeah, and Powers Creek, lots of good conversations happening. I believe we will be bringing back to council at your October meeting an offer for the corporation yard. We did receive a written offer, so Russ is evaluating that, and I'm really excited that that is moving forward as well. So that'll be brought back to council in October. That'll be under a closed session for property negotiations, but we have received a written offer for that property. Thing conversations are moving in a positive direction on the sports complex on the B&B property as well. That seems to everyone seems to have a pretty high level of enthusiasm for that. So that's a really neat project. And because of that, we've been having larger conversations where about thinking about how these properties all can connect in the future, including secondary egress, parking, co-share parking facilities, etc. And we will be reaching out to some of our funding partners to talk about opportunities to do some additional CEQA analysis for kind of a larger overarching EIR for the district. So I think we have some really good projects coming forward, and that would probably be the next step for moving forward with some of that development.
So would
So
that sports complex facilitate B&B would leave?
yes, yes.
And what about the propane storage tank?
The propane storage tank, they have, I believe, a 5-year lease, and we don't, the the entity that's looking at the sports complex doesn't feel that that's an impediment. It's just a fueling station, and those are co-located all over the U.S. around housing, around facilities. They're very safe. They're very regulated, so it's not seen as an impediment to that type of development coming in. Yeah, and I don't know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer.
I'm wondering about housing element update. You say that the comment period is going to be coming up. Do you have an idea when that's going to happen?
Yeah, and at the time of me writing the report, we didn't have it yet, but since Gary is leaving for 3 weeks to go to France, he was able to get that out. And so that was posted, I believe, yesterday. We got the postings out. It's up on the website, and then that will be brought back in October. So the CEQA document is now available for the housing element.
So you have it posted as a news item on the homepage?
I believe so.
And posters all on the bulletin
Everything.
boards and stuff? All their locations. Okay. Do we have a list of folks that wanted to be notified when that was happening?
I mean, I'm assuming Lisa Hoover is probably the most interested out of all of them.
So and that 30-day period started when?
I think it starts tomorrow, or or maybe today. Today or the 27th. We posted ahead of the 30 days, so we have a few extra days.
So the 30 days will end in time for our October 22nd meeting. Okay. Yeah, that should work if it's the 26th. And Gary will be back
He'll be
by
back.
that
Yeah.
time to present it.
Yep.
Good. Good.
And he'll take all the comments and synthesize those um,
And then I had one more question, and that was about the Powers Creek restoration. So I recall hearing that there was a $600,000 grant
mhm.
for that, and that was quite a few years ago. So I'm
Mhm.
just wondering when that's going to happen.
So that grant went from 600,000 to over 900,000, and the work is underway. We have been in design and engineering and permitting for the last year. Um, we are, let's see, in fact, I have my
They were
report.
working on it today while the splash day was going on.
Yeah, we have symbiotic restoration is going out and surveying the creek for vegetation to get an assessment on future vegetation removal. We are conducting outreach to the adjacent property owners to work with them on the presentation of the proposed design work. And I believe in November, Bottawat Watershed Council will be doing a community meeting on that as well. So that work is progressing, and I anticipate we'll probably start some level of construction in the spring for probably vegetation removal, and then we'll apply for the next round of funding for um, construction. So we've been working with the funding agency to do kind of an expanded scope of construction to improve the habitat and to make more of an impact on localized flooding.
So there won't be any improvements in terms of flood control for this rainy season.
I mean, we have some vegetation removal taking place, and I'm not sure. Symbiotic might be able to do some vegetation removal this year. We just did some flood mitigation work actually today during the town square splash day. We actually had uh, professional tree service was in the creek removing debris and taking down vegetation so that we wouldn't have any type of um, backups in the creek. But as far as actually getting in with any large equipment, we won't be doing that this year.
So is there a problem in the creek, like down just before the industrial park where the creek turns? Is that a isn't that a big problem?
That's Kyle Boughton's property. And the problem with that area is just lack of maintenance, mostly vegetation impacts, and then the creek. The creek is aggraded over time, so the creek level, the bed of the creek is filling in and it's rising, so it's not as capable of holding the floodwaters that it typically had been, and that's why we're seeing more of these flood events on more of like a 5 year versus maybe a 20 or 30-year event. And so that's something that's being built into the modeling. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at expanding the scope of the project and to be able to better take that into consideration and make a bigger impact.
I was just hoping some of that would happen before.
Part of it is just it's private property as well. So it's up to the private property owner to manage their portions of the creek. And that's something that we've, been trying to work with property owners on. But that is the responsibility of the property owner to manage their vegetation and stuff along there.
Okay, any other questions or comments concerning the manager's report? I see a hand is up. Julie?
Thank you guys for hanging in there. I would have a suggestion that as much as we don't want to admit that our manager's report is plump and it's very undisclosed for public comment, we perhaps could schedule a special meeting. We used to have 2 meetings a month for council, and maybe so that public can have transparency and involvement with our manager's report, we could prioritize perhaps a special meeting to catch us up. There's been a lot of discussion items that haven't been discussed prior. And going back to literally last comments from our manager about private property owners and them not keeping up. I know she's more than aware that they are not able to make adjustments to their property without the engineers telling them what to do. And I would never hold a property owner responsible for the decisions of engineers. And I would never hold the city responsible for the decisions of engineers as well. Because their lack of common sense and their reality that they want job security is very apparent in my life and in my world. So Mad River Alliance with their grant and the funding that was exceeded without notification, that's very interesting. So thank you, Elise. I had no idea that it had exceeded that $600,000 mark. There's a lot more comments. So again, please maybe think about excluding our manager's report at this point in time for a special meeting at Planning Commission. We were not given opportunity to hear further developments. The meeting was cut short and it's time to catch up. We need to catch up. So please, you guys, as much as you can, support the community with catching up in a way that they can actually have comment. And I'm stretching out my 3 minutes. I appreciate my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I just clarify Julie's
Yeah.
comment?
Yeah.
We didn't exceed a budget. We actually got additional funding.
Oh,
So
thank
we
you.
That's the way I
received
understood
more
it too.
money.
No, that's
Yeah.
the way I understood it too. Okay.
Okay.
I was a little confused when you said that the property owner has to manage the vegetation in the creek.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's their private property. It's not a navigable stream. So if you have a creek running through your property, you own that portion of the creek. And it's
So
up
does
to you to
that mean
manage.
that portion of the creek is not going to be managed as part of the restoration project?
No, it is. Those properties have been written into the project. So the project will pay for that restoration work in partnership with the property owners.
I see. Okay.
Okay, we're on future agenda items. I do want to remind folks that papers are due for the city council opening that has occurred because of Elizabeth McKay stepping down. Those applications are due this Friday, September 27th. Our meeting will be a special meeting on October 8th, Tuesday at 6:30 to look over those papers and make a decision as to who should be appointed to the last 2 years of her term, just to remind you about that. Then we talked about the video from HCOG, which we can do at that meeting or we can put it at the regular meeting, depending on what you want to do. The housing element will go on the October 22nd regular meeting. I think that's all I have. Anyone else?
Financial audit. That was supposed to be tonight,
Right.
but
That will definitely be at your October meeting.
so
Okay.
October 22nd meeting.
22nd.
Okay.
Regular meeting.
So with the deadline for the for submission of applications for the appointment being this Friday, and then we have a whole week before we're going to have the meeting. Can we have that information made public prior to Friday night? I mean, like Friday night before our meeting. It would be nice to have a little more time to review those applications and
Yeah. Yeah,
and
because
see
the
what,
Friday night before would be October 4th.
right? I'm
So
just
our
saying we
meeting's
have
the
a
8th.
whole week to find out who's going to be considered for that spot.
Oh,
So
you want it before Friday night?
yeah, I mean that's going to be the only thing on the agenda for that meeting, right?
Unless there's
Pretty
some.
much. We just have the CDBG close out, which is just a quick public
Okay.
comment.
So do we get those applications in our board packet on Friday the 4th?
I think that was the intent,
yeah.
but once we have them past the deadline, we can provide them. I think. I don't think that's a problem.
Okay.
That's what we talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
at the previous meeting, that we wanted more time to review
them. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if possible, get them to us by Tuesday or Wednesday, October 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate staff doing that. All right. We will have our agenda setting meeting usually a week before the meeting with Elise, and the manager can be clerk. So we are now on adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Elise Scafani, seconded by Angela Shull to adjourn. Any further discussion from council? Any input from public? Back to council for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.